Hello, David McMillan here. I woke up this morning to find that my friend and fellow YouTuber, if that's what I am really, anyway, Shaun Attwood has been vaporized. What does that mean? Indeed, Shaun Attwood's channel, the service to what must be 700,000 subscribers by now, has just disappeared. You can see just the traces, the burnt remains of a few titles that he's put up, but the channel, the account, has been taken down. Taken down by YouTube because it crossed some line, apparently. Now, a lot of fancy words have been applied to the description of the offence he caused. Cyberbullying, apparently. Now, I guess we understand bullying. That's from the playground when you go out and batter somebody who allows himself to be battered. But adding the cyber to it kind of gives that edge. I mean, don't you find that these days anything with a technical word attached to it takes on extra significance? And as you can tell, I'm not really... Sean's a friend of mine. Okay, like him, don't like him, agree with him, don't. But he's up there doing things, bringing, entertainment to you. And you might say, well, yes, but he brought that awful David McMillan along. He's had something like 10 episodes of him. I'm glad to see they've been blown away. Well, not so fast. I've got a lot of those on my channel. But that's not the point. Was his crime so great? In fact, was the crime so great for many people who've been subject to the great cancel culture that takes possession of all the media? Here's the thing. The platforms, they don't like to be called publishers, but I guess in a sense they are. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they don't really care. That is, the business model doesn't really care what anybody says. What was it Clint Eastwood said about politics in Hollywood? Hollywood wouldn't care if Stalin himself produced a film. If it was a hit, they'd welcome him. And that's true enough. But somehow the platforms got the blame for the messenger. That is, they were asked to do something. How did this come about? It's definitely true that one of the great things about the easy media age, when anybody with a smartphone can be a reporter and no dictator can hide anywhere, well, except perhaps in Myanmar, I'm not sure about that, but it's more difficult to hide. Whatever is done will be reported. But at the same time, okay, sure, most of the dictators have to have a media division these days. It hasn't entirely stopped them, of course. But what goes along with it, every whiner, every yellowbelly, every sourpuss, or everybody who wants to be noticed, can complain to somebody. Now, do they complain to government? Yes, they do. And they ask government, that's politicians, to step in and do something. Do something about what? I don't know. What are the terms? Offensiveness, cultural appropriation. We used to welcome that, by the way. Bigotry, racism, bullying, whatever that is. It seems to be naming names and giving an accusation. When I say accusation, it's just repeating a statement. A statement? This could be the victim's statement. Why go to somebody and complain, I didn't like to hear what I just heard. I'm somehow offended by it. Well, we'll come to who they are in a minute. But how did the platforms end up having to wear the problem? In a sense, the ability to cancel in the cancel culture, that is, when a group of people don't like something, a statue or the colours of a flag or, a child's picture on your refrigerator, they go to their department to complain, and they complain back to the source of the message. They complain back to wherever it came from. Now, because it's likely to be Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, why is it somehow different? Why because they make a lot of money. And why is that bad? It's bad for the same reason, and I know about this, that drug dealers are bad because they make a lot of money. Indeed, if drug dealers only made, 25 cents on the dollar, they'd be pitied, pathetic little revenue earners. They wouldn't get the credit for a lot of the damage they do if they were very small rent, if you know what I mean. And in the same sense, the big media conglomerates, they're really in the entertainment business, but because they're successful, they must be guilty of something, yeah? Governments, the supposed regulators, the front line of those are the politicians. People come to them and have a whine about something they saw that they didn't like. Now, times have changed. I suppose it very much began with the early messengers. I guess if people got a telephone call that was upsetting them, they might get in touch with Alexander Graham Bell and say, listen, that damn telephone service of yours, most of the calls I get, I don't want them. And you should have heard what Uncle Phil said the other day. Why did you let him call? Why didn't you vet his message? Why don't you examine everything that comes through that awful device? And in a sense, that's what's happening with YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. Somehow they're being held responsible, and it's come about because the politicians, that's the only way they can dodge it. You know what they really feel when they have a whiner on their case saying, well, I was discriminated against, I didn't get a fair shake, I wasn't painted in a particularly flattering light. What are you going to do about it? I bet they're thinking, they're hard people. Well, damn it, you've got an off button, press it. You don't have to watch. It's not good enough, though, is it? Indeed, politicians and therefore governments will bully and cajole and insist that the media companies set up a little department, and in that department people sit there and watch things, and when something crosses some imaginary line, then they can do, well, what can they do? Well, they can cancel them, cut them off. And quite a few people, and Shaun Attwood had become one of them, he depended on that for a living. Oh, so what do you say? He can go back to staging rave parties. Well, he can't in Arizona. The profit on ecstasy isn't what it used to be. The pill business taken over by the, former Eastern blockers, really, India. But let's not look for career options for Shaun just yet. I think we can get him back. And you're the 700,000 subscribers. Well, you dined out at his expense. You watched him produce things. You may have scoffed and jeered and laughed at him and perhaps applauded him, welcomed him. But you subscribed. Make a nuisance of yourself with YouTube. I'm not sure how, but let your voice be heard. That's the important thing. Really, if anybody should have been cancelled, it's me. I'm revolting the things I encourage people to do. No, to think about. Yeah, I should be cancelled. But Shaun's channel has been taken away. Now, that should affect the 700,000 subscribers to some degree. After all, you watched, you perhaps didn't always agree, you maybe cried, you laughed, you were entertained. So perhaps we owe him that much. A little support, perhaps. We should say something to those who took him away from us. And do something, perhaps. I don't know really how this is done. I'll have to find out. Somebody will know. But as I say, the government has cajoled and intimidated the media platforms into starting a little office where people sit there and watch a few things from time to time and see if it crosses some transgression of, what is it? Cyberbullying or offensiveness of some means. They're obliged to do that now. And what is their remedy? To make a video and make a counterclaim? To give equal time to somebody else? To investigate the allegations, if that's what it is? Nope. Cancel culture. Wipe them away. They never existed. You become a non-person. I know Big Brother's a TV show, but read the original book. It's sadly true and sadly not. But you don't want to be nursemaided all your life, surely. Was it wise for Shaun to take on the cause of paedophilia? Probably not. I wouldn't have. Anyway, I'm of that generation that kind of grew up with it all being quietly smothered. Well, we had a local pervert. He used to flash and play with himself in front of us. We used to stone him, and if we were feeling energetic and in a mob, we used to chase him down. He hadn't really crossed a total line of actually touching anyone, so he left himself fair game. He disappeared one day, and we were a bit worried. Our favourite target was missing. We even had to find out where he lived and went round to ask if he was sick. No, he'd just been on vacation, finding a fresh spot, so he was back being stoned by us after all. You'd think he would have had a groin protector. No. Anyway, the thing is, anybody who takes on the cause of unmasking paedophilia is bound to run into trouble, because it's a world which is very circular. Some of the people who complain about it most are probably involved in some way. I don't know, of course I'm not talking about Shaun. What I mean is the people who are vocal in their support of things. I'm always a little suspicious of people who passionately believe in things and go on marches, whatever their cause might be. I remember talking to a guy who was walking down an anti-abortion march with kind of fake fetus in his hand, banging on about protection of life. I had to stop him and ask him, "Listen, fella, you can't get pregnant. What's it to you? Grows inside a woman. Don't you think it's her business? You ever going to have a baby? I've got a rather strong feeling you've been trying in your own quiet way. But here you are in the street, making a nuisance of yourself and scaring everybody with your gory little doll." No. People who complain. I'll end this with a little complaint story, and it tells it all. Here in the UK, back in 2020, there was a dance troupe called Diversity, I think it was, on ITV's Britain's Got Talent show. Anyway, they did a bit of a dance, and it was a kind of what's current and happening now, and featured things about the pandemic and Black Lives Matter. I think some images of George Floyd was kind of worked in there. I didn't actually see it. You know who did see it? Supposedly 35,000 people who complained about it. They said that it was inappropriate for that kind of television program, and therefore they were offended at being there. I don't know quite how that... Oh, they said it was racist in its, not the conventional sense, but in their sense, to their view of things. But here's the point about that. The initial complaints were perhaps just a few hundred out of millions of people who watched the program. But within 2 days, it had grown to 35,000. And who were these extra people? These were people who heard there was a ruckus to be had and made it their business to tune in and watch the thing that offended. So they too would not miss out on being offended. And once offended, they made their voice known and called up and complained about it. So not only did they not avail themselves of an off button, they didn't need to. They never saw the damn thing in the first place. They went out of their way to get offended so they could complain. Isn't it? People are wonderful. Don't you just love them? Anyway, if what offends you is what you want, you need look no further. I'll be happy to oblige. Where is Shaun, anyway? Yeah, I liked him. See you.